if you ask me her apology she had today, initially, it was, yeah, I did it and I'll do it again apology.
Imagine apologizing for setting the kitchen on fire, but ending it with, BTW, I'd totally roast marshmallows in the ashes again. That's Sha'Carri's energy. Sha'Carri Richardson's first apology wasn't an apology at all.
We were both abusive, mentally, verbally, physically, everything. And if I'm going to be on this and keeping it real, as we've been abusive through most of this relationship.
It was more like a victory lap. Instead of contrition, she doubled down, bragging about the chaos like it was a gold medal event. Fans were expecting regret. What they got was a mic drop of audacity. She claimed both she and her partner were toxic, mental, verbal, physical fireworks. But somehow she walked away squeaky clean, halo still intact. The irony? That confession was less honest reflection and more gasoline on the bonfire.
The thing here is something that I see too often, where you try and get the male that's with you in trouble with the authorities because you know most of the time you have leverage over the male when you say something's wrong.
In PR 101, you apologize to soften the crowd. In Sha'Carri 101, you apologize to remind them you'd do it again. If spilling tea were an Olympic sport, Corey Holcomb would have Sha'Carri running for bronze. Corey didn't just question her credibility, he eviscerated it on live air. Most comedians throw shade. Corey threw the whole damn tree.
If you are a female who tries to use her gender to get the man you with arrested intentionally, they saw her throwing headphones at the man and everything. But when the police came, she acted like it was the other way around. I can't forgive you.
He accused Sha'Carri of fabricating her victimhood and whipped out receipts like he was auditioning for Judge Judy. Overnight, her narrative flipped harder than a gymnast midair. Fans who once clutched pearls for her were suddenly whispering, wait, has she been lying this whole time? The real gag? Corey didn't care about being polite. He nuked her public image with zero remorse. And once Corey Holcomb calls you a liar, that label sticks like Gorilla Glue. Sha'Carri Richardson didn't walk into her apology video with regret. No, sis strutted in like it was a runway, and the dress code was chaotic energy only. Instead of remorse, she served up a bizarre confession. Yeah, I did it, and I'll do it again. That's not an apology, that's a villain monologue. If apologies were supposed to soften hearts, hers sharpened knives.
And more than anything, definitely a lot of self-reflection, a lot of understanding of not only putting myself in a compromised situation, but somebody that I have a deep care and appreciation for as well is something that holding myself accountable. I see myself, I'm taking this time to not only see myself, but get myself a certain level of health that overall is going to reflect who I truly am in my heart.
She admitted to being in a toxic, abusive dynamic, mental, verbal, physical, painting the picture of a relationship that was basically WrestleMania with candles. But here's the kicker. Despite confessing to chaos, she somehow framed herself as the innocent bystander in her own crime scene. It's the PR equivalent of saying, yes, officer, I robbed the bank, but the vault was asking for it. Most comedians roast lightly, shade innuendos, a little tongue-in-cheek. Corey Holcomb, he went DEFCON 1. He didn't say Sha'Carri was messy. He called her a liar, out loud, in front of thousands, with receipts. That's not shade, that's arson. Corey pulled the rug out from under Sha'Carri's carefully choreographed victim narrative. For months, she'd been spinning her story as if she was the wronged one, the fragile phoenix rising from ashes of abuse. But Corey ripped off the wings, tossed them in a fryer, and fed them back to the audience. He accused her of weaponizing sympathy, manipulating police, and flipping the story so she always came out looking like Snow White, while her exes were cast as big bad wolves.
He is doing something to help himself now because he know I was finna be through with him. Because he had a girlfriend, his mother told me that girl likes to fight him. And I told him, hey man, let me tell you something about a girl who likes to fight. You're the one that's gonna get in trouble for it.
The wild part, the internet didn't hesitate. Fans had been side-eyeing her stories for months, but Corey gave them permission to scream what they were whispering. This girl is full of it. Social media lit up like the 4th of July. Memes, hot takes, and Sha'Carri exposed threads started flying faster than her 100-meter dash. Here's where it gets diabolical. Corey didn't just accuse Sha'Carri of lying, he accused her of exploiting the system. According to him, she knew exactly how to play the game when the cops showed up. She wasn't the aggressor. Oh no, she was the delicate damsel. Tears, trembling, the whole Broadway act. Meanwhile, the same cops had just seen her chucking headphones like ninja stars. Corey's gripe wasn't just about her lying, it was about the bigger picture. He called out the pattern where some women flip the script in domestic situations because they know how gender dynamics tilt in their favor. And Sha'Carri, he said, was the poster child for that manipulation. That's not just a hot take, that's kerosene on the bonfire. When Corey painted her as a manipulator, it stung because the receipts were there. Video clips, conflicting statements, and her own cocky apology. Here's the twist. Sha'Carri underestimated the audience. She thought people would rally. When her ex-girlfriend Janique Brown finally spoke up, it was like a deleted scene from Love Hip Hop Track Field Edition.
Fitness get physical because there were claims that she was being abused. But the last conversation that you and I had, you also said that it was on both ends.
Yes, we were both abusive, mentally, verbally, physically, everything. And if I'm going to be on this and keeping it real, as we've been abused to most of this relationship, and other people there's people who seen that, people who know that, you know, and we still honestly come and go, toxic, push and pull, and still get over the obstacles until I said, I have learned my lesson. I don't want to go over no more of these obstacles.
Janique didn't sit down to whine or throw dirt. She came across as the reluctant truth teller, someone who'd had enough of being the villain in Sha'Carri's Instagram soap opera. According to Janique, their relationship wasn't a rom-com, it was a demolition derby. Both sides were mentally, verbally, and physically abused. But here's the kicker. Janique admitted her faults, while Sha'Carri weaponized the breakup to play the damsel in distress. She went online, painting Janique as the crazy Jamaican ex who mistreated her, and the internet bought it wholesale. Janique got canceled before she even had time to find the unmute button. This wasn't just petty breakup shade. It was a masterclass in PR manipulation. Sha'Carri knew how to frame a narrative, so she walked away clean while Janique was left branded toxic. Only when the backlash reached boiling point did Janique step forward, voice trembling but receipts loaded. And that, folks, is when the facade started to crack. Instead of accountability, Sha'Carri tried to Jedi mind trick the cops. She called him a liar, insisted nothing physical happened, and even claimed she was the one set up. Sis was auditioning for an Emmy right there on the tarmac, flipping from sob story to self-defense attorney in seconds. And yet, the footage didn't lie. The aggressor was clear. The internet. Oh, they had receipts on repeat. Clip after clip circulated with captions like, "Y'all still calling her a victim?" Fans who once cheered for her speed were now slow clapping her excuses. Coleman, meanwhile, looked like a hostage. Defending her later in interviews, he spoke like someone reading cue cards at gunpoint.
Like, I don't feel as if like she should have been arrested. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you know, people have discussions and emotions and stuff like that. And she have like things that she needs to work on for herself, of course. And so do I, so do you, like everybody. And I'm the type of guy, like, I'm in the business of just like extending grace and mercy and love. And
Grace, mercy, love. Bro, blink twice if you need help. To drive his point home, Corey didn't just expose Sha'Carri. He dragged in a personal story. He told the world about his son, who dated a woman that loved to fight. Corey warned him, "Son, she's gonna swing, you're gonna snap, and when you do, you're the one catching charges." And surprise, surprise, that's exactly what happened. His son got slapped with a DV charge while the girl skipped away scot-free. The story wasn't filler, it was a warning. Corey used it as a mirror to Sha'Carri's antics. He argued she wasn't just chaotic, she was calculated. She knew that the system usually tilts against men, and she was ready to weaponize that at full speed. The parallel was too sharp to ignore. Corey's son was proof of the pattern. And the fans? They ate it up. Social media posts read like sermons. Protect yourselves, kings. These women out here throwing punches and playing victim. Whether you agreed or not, Corey tapped into a cultural nerve. People were already tired of fake apologies and manipulative narratives. Sha'Carri wasn't just exposed, she was textbook. Once Corey cracked open the Pandora's box, the internet didn't just peek inside. They built condos in there. Fans went feral suddenly. Every clip, every statement, every side-eye Sha'Carri ever gave was dissected like CSI Twitter edition. Had no idea Sha'Carri Richardson was like that, one post read. Another, funny how she's an abuser but her sponsors stay quieter than a church mouse at midnight mass. Twitter doesn't hand out leniency. Once they smell blood, it's a feeding frenzy. Sha'Carri had positioned herself as the underdog darling of track field, the girl who ran with fire in her hair and resilience in her stride. But in the court of public opinion, underdogs don't get away with playing wolf in sheep's clothing. The memes were brutal. The hashtags, even worse. And the brand's silence, deafening. When Nike, Gatorade, or whoever cuts a check doesn't tweet a single syllable, you know they're in the PR war room asking, so how fast can we ghost her without looking messy? In the midst of the chaos, Coleman came out swinging. Not against Sha'Carri, but for her. The man stood in front of cameras, bruised ego, and maybe ribs in tow, and defended her with lines so soft they could have been sponsored by Kleenex. She needs grace. She needs help. We all have things to work on, he whispered, like a pastor trying to preach while someone's holding a taser to his neck. But his eyes betrayed him. Fans pointed it out instantly. No eye contact, nervous body language, the kind of stiff delivery that screamed, "This statement has been approved by Sha'Carri Richardson trademark." The internet went wild. Bro looks like he's reading ransom notes. Blink twice if she's in the room. Instead of saving her, his defense made her look even guiltier. Because what kind of woman has a man defending her while looking like he's seconds away from filing for witness protection? Coleman didn't know it, but he became the symbol of the entire saga. A man too scared to tell the truth, too loyal to cut ties, and too trapped to realize silence would have done more than his shaky sermons ever could. After Corey torched her narrative and the internet turned her into a trending disaster, Sha'Carri did what every celebrity does in crisis mode. She dropped an apology. The problem? It was the kind of apology you give when you knock over a stranger's coffee, not when you've been exposed as the aggressor in a domestic situation. She smiled through the whole video like she was announcing a new makeup line. She spoke of reflection, accountability, and self-growth, but her vibe screamed, "LOL, y'all really mad about this." Even Corey couldn't resist clowning her, saying, "That ain't no apology, that's someone laughing at y'all while she gets away with it." And honestly, he wasn't wrong. Fans roasted her harder than a Thanksgiving turkey. Where's the remorse? Why is she cheesing like she's at prom? Others demanded she be booted from track field altogether. And when she followed up with a syrupy Instagram post to Christian, "My apologies should be louder than my actions. I love you. I'm so sorry," the internet collectively rolled its eyes. Once the airport footage leaked, the internet transformed into a crime lab. People were zooming in, slowing frames down, analyzing Coleman's body language like it was the Zapruder film. See that flinch? Classic trauma response. Notice the way her arm moves. Definitely aggressive. Suddenly, every Twitter user had a PhD in behavioral science. The narrative. Sha'Carri pushed "I'm the victim, he's the liar," crumbled like a stale cookie under the weight of amateur forensic experts with unlimited Wi-Fi. And the receipts weren't just visual. People pulled up her old posts, interviews, even cryptic tweets where she shaded exes. The internet timeline looked like a true crime Netflix episode, except the villain wasn't some masked stranger. It was their former track queen. Corey Holcomb wasn't just spilling tea, he was serving sermons. Using his son's cautionary tale as Exhibit A, he elevated himself from comic to cultural prophet. His warning was simple: mess with women who fight, and the only thing getting KO'd is your future. The petty prophet struck a chord. Fans weren't just laughing, they were nodding in uncomfortable agreement. Corey turned Sha'Carri into the poster child of manipulation, weaponizing sympathy and hiding behind gender privilege. And the irony, the jokes made his truth sharper. Christian's big interview should have been his emancipation speech. Instead, it was a soft, focused sermon about grace, mercy, and self-reflection.
I feel as if like I don't try to look at obstacles either. Like I just look at like situations like this to just like, you know, take a step back, analyze yourself mentally, and then just try to see what you can do to be your best self so that you can move forward, so you can just be the type of person and a human that God needs you to be for his kingdom and for his glory. And so that's kind of how I look at the situation.
World, she didn't deserve punishment, just support. Sweet? Sure. Convincing? Not even a little. Fans saw right through it. His eyes darted like someone waiting for a shadow in the corner to flinch. His tone was robotic, rehearsed, dripping with please don't hurt me energy. It didn't feel like love. It felt like survival. Twitter called it immediately. This man sounds like a hostage. Blink if she's in the room. By defending her, Christian thought he was calming the storm. Instead, he poured gasoline on it. Because nothing screams toxic louder than a victim defending their abuser on camera. In the end, his loyalty didn't make her look better. It made him look trapped. She's a walking billboard. Hair on fire, nails sharp enough to cut Wi-Fi, attitude turned up to Beyoncé at Coachella levels. But when her brand of rebel resilience stopped working, she pulled out the oldest hustle in the PR handbook: play the victim. Every apology, every post, every carefully staged, reflective selfie screamed, pity me, love me, forgive me. It was less about accountability and more about rebranding. Think about it. When she got suspended for weed, she flipped it into a sympathy tour. When she clashed with rivals, it became a "they're jealous" narrative. Now, the domestic drama was just another excuse to rinse and repeat. But the thing about hustling sympathy is this: people eventually notice the pattern. You can cry wolf once, maybe twice. By the third time, the village is rolling its eyes and muting your notifications. And in Sha'Carri's case, the village had receipts, Corey's roast, and a timeline full of contradictions. All of them suddenly developed lockjaw. Not a single statement, not a single supportive tweet, nothing. That wasn't loyalty, that was survival instinct. Because here's the deal, brands don't care about morality, they care about optics. And in the optics department, Sha'Carri had gone from rebellious queen to walking lawsuit. One wrong move and those million-dollar deals could tank a whole campaign. So they played the oldest trick in corporate PR, pretend it never happened. But silence speaks volumes. Fans noticed. So y'all cut ties with people over a bad tweet from 2011, but she gets a pass? Where's all that empowering women energy now? The hypocrisy was louder than any press release. It was a public execution disguised as a monologue. Corey dismantled every excuse, every fake tear, every "but I'm the victim" performance, and he did it with surgical precision. He called her manipulative. He called her dangerous. He called her out for weaponizing the sympathy of women everywhere who actually are victims. And the worst part? The audience agreed. He didn't just clown her, he convinced people to never look at her the same way again. That's the Corey effect. He doesn't just burn bridges, he blows them up, salts the earth, and sells merch of the explosion. By the end of his roast, Sha'Carri wasn't the fiery underdog anymore. She was the punchline in a cautionary tale. Confidence? Off the charts. Swagger? Olympic level. But after Corey's roast and the internet's autopsy of her life, the mask started cracking. Suddenly, the woman who never blinked on the track was blinking too much in interviews. The smiles looked forced. The speeches? Hollow. This wasn't the track star anymore. It was a character in a play, scrambling to remember her lines. And the public could tell. Because the one thing you can't outrun is authenticity. The internet has a sixth sense for when someone's faking remorse, and Sha'Carri's performance reeked of rehearsals. It shredded the manual. The denial phase was messy. The apology phase was a joke. The rehab phase never even started. And about the internet, once it decides you're guilty, there's no parole. You don't get time served, you get memes for life. The hashtag started to define her legacy more than her medals ever could. What's wild is how the story flipped. A year ago, she was the underdog America loved to root for, the fiery sprinter with no days off tattooed on her DNA. But in one scandal, her story turned into the oldest internet parable. No matter how fast you run, you can't outrun the truth. That's the tragedy of it. She could have been remembered as one of the greatest comeback stories in sports. Instead, she's remembered as a brand implosion, a PR cautionary tale, and a walking example of how talent alone can't save you when character doesn't keep up. And maybe that's the final twist. Sha'Carri Richardson didn't just lose a race, a medal, or a sponsor, she lost control of her own narrative. Now, her legacy isn't hers to shape, it belongs to Corey's roast clips, the memes, and the internet archives that never die. She thought she'd be remembered as the fastest woman alive. Instead, she'll be remembered as the woman who couldn't outrun the truth. And that's the cruel punchline, the mic drop, the bitter irony. Sha'Carri Richardson won't be remembered for how fast she ran, but for how fast she fell.